token guy for this panel. Used to being the most attractive person on the panel. Way it used to be. The title of this panel is paraphrased from that famous 21st century philosopher Beyonce, who runs the world. Global women entrepreneurs, global women leaders. To my left, I have Tarina Patel, who's an actress, author, and peace activist. Then we have Cimeran, who's founder and CEO of Communikind. And then we have Davuluri, who's an entrepreneur, founder, and 2014 Miss America. Cimeran, you started Communikind. Can you tell us a little bit about Communikind and what our community can do to help empower women in ventures?
Sure. But I started Communikind. It's essentially a care management platform for the whole family. It's a health tech company. And I never actually imagined myself in business, not once, until I came up with the idea of Communikind. I had, if you don't mind, I'll tell a little bit about my background so you have some context. But for my entire life, my goal was to ensure that every child and every family felt autonomous in their care and in their health. And so I had this single objective, and when it came to health, I was a South Asian woman, and so I was like, well, obviously I need to be a doctor, and there's no other way to influence health other than being a physician, and that's the only model that I'd seen. I'd never seen women in business at that point. And so I went down this long-winded path. My parents were, of course, they're going to be a doctor. And I said, well, before I go to medical school, I want to understand every single discipline that impacts a child's health. So I started off my career in public health. I then learned that education, other than your zip code, is the largest determinant of health. So I applied for Teach for America, and I worked in some of the most impoverished schools in the country. I became a special education teacher to understand all of the children who had different disabilities and how the medical world coincided with that. And then went into clinical research to understand how research was handling this. I worked for the public health department and became a board member there. And then I decided I wanted to understand a multidisciplinary approach in healthcare. So I ended up getting a great opportunity at UCSF and built what is now known as the Children's Communication Center. That was my startup experience. I was like, okay, I'm ready now to become a doctor. And I went to medical school. And when I was in medical school, there was one lecture that we had that reminded me of that very first lecture I had in public health that talked about your education being a determinant of your care and your zip code being a determinant of your care. And essentially the gist of that lecture was, there's only so much we can do for our patients, and then we send them back into their community. And I was deeply upset by this because I had worked my entire life to get to that point. I was on my way to becoming a pediatric head and neck surgeon, and I said, this is not what I signed up for. I want to ensure that every child and family feels autonomous. So what needs to be done? And there were three things that I came up with. The tools. Patients need the tools to access all of their holistic health information about themselves so that they can decide who to share that with. The second is they need incredible resources to inform their care decisions. And then the third is, especially if you have a chronic health condition, which is 40% of our country, you need a supportive community of care that you can lean on so you don't feel isolated and that you're the only one. And I said, well, I can do this through technology. I don't need to be a doctor. And it was ironic. I called my husband and I said, hey, I'm going to drop out of medical school. And he said, whoa, whoa, whoa. Please, finish medical school, get the MD. And so I decided, okay, well, now's the time for change. Let me just think about this for another month. And what was so ironic was that I had spent 15 years in every single discipline that impacted health, that I was healthy all my life, and I was never a patient. Until 1 month later, I was diagnosed with cancer, and I became a patient. And I saw in that moment that it's not just, physicians, we care about our patients so much. But the things, we have thousands of them. And we go home at the end of the day, and we have our own families to take care of. We have ourselves to take care of. And so in that one moment, I realized that there's so much more to the health infrastructure that I didn't know until I became a patient. And that's really where Communikind was born. And I never looked back. And now we're 1 year into building this care management platform.
That's amazing. your story is, I mean, it's almost like the universe was talking to you.
Absolutely.
Nina, Madeline Albright in 2006 said there's a special place in hell for women that don't help each other. How have women helped you in your ventures and your opportunities, and how have they contributed to your success?
Oh my goodness. Well, first of all, I feel like I have to share a story in terms of just my Miss America experience, because that is one of the top questions I'm always asked is, what was it like? And it really wasn't until a few weeks ago that I was really able to put it into words or even process it. And it's been 5 years, since I've served my time. And it's interesting. I was at the US Open with a dear friend who's actually at this conference. And, we were talking about our tennis days, because all of us played tennis at some point in our lives. And he said, it was always my dream to become a tennis player. Ever since I was little, that's what I wanted to do. Spoiler alert, he did not become a tennis player. But he said to me, what was your dream? Like when you were a kid, did you ever dream about something? And I just looked at it and I said, yes, and mine happened for me. And of course I dreamed about becoming Miss America, and I realized in that moment that when you have opportunities like that, and when you're able to recognize that one of your dreams actually happened, it's also an immense amount of responsibility what you do with it. And since my time, I've obviously have continued to be a speaker and an advocate. And in terms of, so I think men are an important part of this conversation. It was really my point of also telling this story to kind of bring it full circle. But since my time as Miss America, I didn't just wake up and say, I'm going to be the poster child and promote diversity now. It was something I'd essentially done my entire life, and even entering the competition, I recognized that there was an opportunity that we weren't represented. The South Asian community really wasn't represented in media. Now I think it's definitely our time, which is a really exciting place for us. But, as I continued to tour and travel and be an advocate, I worked a lot with the Obama administration, and one of the women that helped me quite a bit was Secretary Biswal. I don't know if she's still here. But anyway, so I remember I went into her office, and we had connected, just through so many different ways. And I said, I really see myself in continuing this and taking this to India and bringing women empowerment and having this conversation in India. And she said, absolutely. And so I actually went on tour with the State Department and did a 10-day tour in Mumbai and Hyderabad, and then ended in Vijayawada, which is where my family is originally from. And that was such a life-changing experience because it's kind of brought me in some ways to where I am right now and what I'm working on right now. In many ways, actually. I remember, it was wonderful that we were having all these conversations with influential people and, wealthy businessmen who had all of the, right connections to make change. And, as we're speaking about empowerment, diversity, education of the girl child, for all of these topics, I remember I went to Vijayawada, it was the last day, and I had seen a woman. She was working in the fields, clearly, by how she was dressed. And she had her 6-year-old daughter with her. And they stopped at one of those side stands on the street, and I saw her buy a packet of Fair and Lovely for 5 rupees. And she gave it to her daughter, and she said to her in Telugu, which I'm fluent in, she said to her, so you don't have the life that I have. And that moment was everything to me. Because I had to ask myself, this woman who clearly loved her daughter very much, why was she not investing those 5 rupees into her education? What are we missing? And I think there's a lot of ways that we can all create change, but I will always say, find that fire that gets you really angry, and for me, that was it. I had dealt with the perception of beauty standards in our culture growing up. I'm obviously darker skinned. Waking up the morning after I won Miss America, oh, is Miss America too dark to be Miss India? Well, really wasn't trying to be Miss India, but thank you for your feedback. And so I realized that this is also really plays into this idea of skin lightening, really plays into socioeconomic status for women, more so than our male counterparts. Yes, male are obviously have it too, but this is really deeply embedded in not only our culture, but in many developing countries around the world. And so I realized that in order to create change, people had to see what I saw. And so that brought me to producing a documentary. It's called Complexion, which I'm really proud of. We actually have started shooting, and it's in development, and we're hoping to release our web series in January. And it is about, it started as a skin lightening industry, but I think what I realized as being a storyteller and having so many incredible conversations with people around the world is that it's so much more than that. I think everyone deals with insecurities, injustice, and yes, it starts with maybe the basis of the color of our skin, but it's really those human feelings of insecurities that we can all connect with in some way, shape, and form. So I'm excited to see where the project goes, and I'm excited to hopefully share it with you soon.
I'll just throw this out to the panel generally. How do you all help other women in their careers? I guess this concept of paying it forward.
So I think that first and foremost is to embody the values and principles that you want to advocate for. So, the best way to learn and to teach is by living that example. So in my own life and all the ventures that I embark on, I ensure that I'm advocating and fighting for things that I believe in, irrespective of my gender, irrespective of the skin, the color of my skin, irrespective of all of that. If I focus on that, it becomes a focal point. But if you just get on with the task at hand, and everybody witnesses a girl going out there and doing great things, her gender and color and all of that just actually has no place. So while you become that role model, it then encourages other girls to just say, if she can do it, I can do it. So I really believe that it starts with you and you setting that example.
And I'll kind of go off of that as well. It's it's one thing to pay it forward, but like Tarina's saying, it's more challenging the status quo. I do think that there is a lot that is put on us as women, and particularly as Indian and Southeast Asian women. There are a lot of standards that you have to uphold, and there's a lot of there's just a big role that you have to play, where it takes a lot of courage and fearlessness to challenge those things. When I was going out to my first meetings to meet with VCs, and my parents didn't intend this at all, they said, "Don't look too pretty." And that was just something that happens a lot, because they think that nobody will take you seriously if you wear makeup, if you wear a dress, if you wear high heels. But I don't believe in that at all, because I know my power. And I want to challenge that so that other women can see that you can wear whatever you want, and it's what's in here and what's in here that counts. And that's something that I think that we need to continue to challenge, because we will get feedback when we don't want it. And that's just part of our society. Every time I go to India, I hear all of these things. Until I got married recently, my grandparents were like, "You can't be too smart, or no one will marry you." And that's just a reality that we kind of face. And we laugh about it, but it is still something. I don't know if you both face this as well, but I know that's something that we face. Yeah.
No, I completely agree with both of you. I think the other part of it also is that we need to take the time to invest in our future. I think earlier today I was at one of the breakout sessions, and I think it was Raj who said, who's moderating the panel, he said, when someone in our community sees one of their own be successful, something attainable, that makes such a difference. And it couldn't be more true. You know, having conversations with, you know, people back in India and speaking to them in Telugu or Hindi or whatever your language may be, when they see someone taking the time to actively go there and reach out to them, and something tangible that they feel like they can actually achieve success, I think that's really incredibly important too.